ass for making my daughter leave because my husband is attracted to her. I'm shaking while writing this because my entire family thinks I'm a monster. But none of them know the full story. According to them, I'm the woman who kicked her own daughter out of the house just to keep a man happy. That's what everyone thinks. That's what my daughter thinks. But the truth is a lot uglier than that, and I honestly don't know if what I did makes me a terrible mother. Or the only one who saw what was coming. For context, I'm 44F. My daughter Kayla is 20. Kayla moved back home about 3 months ago. After her college roommate situation exploded, apparently the girl she lived with kept bringing random people into the apartment, and Kayla didn't feel safe there anymore. Of course I told her she could come home. She's my daughter, my only child. I hadn't lived with her full time since she left for school 2 years ago, so honestly I was excited to have her back. My husband, Mark 46 Emin, also seemed happy about it. Or at least, that's what I thought at first. Mark has been my husband for 8 years. He's technically Kayla's stepdad, but he came into her life when she was 12, so he's been around a long time. They've always gotten along fine. Nothing weird. Which is why what started happening felt so confusing. At first it was small things. Little moments I almost brushed off. Like the way Mark would suddenly get very talkative whenever Kayla was in the room. Or how he'd laugh a little too hard at her jokes. One night during dinner, Kayla mentioned she might start going to the gym again, and Mark immediately said, "You don't need the gym. You're already in great shape." It was an odd comment, but Kayla just rolled her eyes and said, "Okay, thanks, I guess," and kept eating. I remember feeling a tiny flicker of discomfort, but I ignored it. Then the compliments started happening more often. "Your hair looks nice today. That color looks really good on you. You've really grown into yourself." None of them were technically inappropriate, but the way he said them made my stomach twist. Kayla started noticing too. One night while we were doing dishes together, she said, half joking, "Why is Mark suddenly my biggest fan?" I laughed it off. Maybe he's just trying to be nice. But inside I felt uneasy. Then things got weirder. Mark started wanting Kayla to hang out with us constantly. If she was in her room, he'd ask where she was. If she went out with friends, he'd ask when she'd be back. At first I thought maybe he was just being protective. But then one night Kayla mentioned she had a date, and Mark's entire mood changed. We were sitting on the couch watching TV when she said it. "I'm grabbing dinner with this guy from my sociology class tonight." Mark immediately paused the TV. "What guy?" Kayla blinked. "Just a guy from class." "What's his name?" I remember the way she looked at me, like she was confused why she was suddenly being interrogated. "Tyler." Mark leaned back and crossed his arms. "How old is he?" Kayla laughed awkwardly. 20 like me?" Mark didn't laugh. Instead, he said something that made the entire room go quiet. "Guys that age only want one thing." Kayla stared at him. "So do guys your age," she said bluntly. Then she grabbed her purse and left. I tried to laugh it off afterward, but something about Mark's reaction felt wrong. It wasn't protective. It felt jealous. And that was the first moment I had a thought that made my stomach drop. What if I'm not imagining this? After the Tyler incident, I started paying closer attention to Mark. And once I started noticing things, I couldn't stop. For example, the staring. I began catching him watching Kayla when he thought no one was looking. Not in a fatherly way. In a way that made my skin crawl. One afternoon, Kayla walked through the living room wearing shorts and an oversized hoodie. Totally normal clothes for a 20-year-old. But Mark's eyes followed her the entire time she crossed the room. I saw it. The moment he realized I saw it, he looked away quickly. That night I barely slept. I kept replaying it in my head, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. But then the comments started getting stranger. One evening, Kayla came downstairs dressed to go out with friends. Mark immediately said, "Wow, someone's trying to break hearts tonight." Kayla laughed awkwardly. "Relax, I'm just going to a birthday dinner." Mark smirked and said, "Still, if I were your age, I'd be in trouble." The room went dead silent. Kayla looked at me. I looked at him. Then Kayla muttered, "Okay, that was weird," and walked out. The second she left, I turned to him. "What was that supposed to mean?" Mark frowned. "What?" "That comment." He shrugged. "It was a joke." But it didn't feel like a joke. The tension between us started growing after that. I became hyper-aware of every interaction between them. Every laugh. Every glance. Every comment. Then something happened that really pushed me over the edge. About 2 weeks ago, Kayla brought Tyler over. It was the first time I'd met him. He seemed nice enough. Polite, quiet, typical college kid. But Mark barely spoke to him. He sat at the dinner table staring at the guy like he hated him. At one point, Tyler asked Mark what he did for work. Mark replied with one-word answers. Then when Kayla left the room to grab drinks, Mark leaned toward Tyler and said quietly, "You better treat her right." Tyler nodded nervously. "I will." Mark's voice got colder. "I'm serious." Tyler glanced at me like he wasn't sure how to respond. The whole thing felt awkward and intense. Later that night after they left, I confronted Mark again. "You're acting weird about Kayla." He rolled his eyes. "Oh my god, you're still on that." "Yes, because it's weird. I'm just looking out for her." "She's not your daughter." That slipped out before I could stop myself. Mark's face hardened instantly. "So what's that supposed to mean?" "It means she's an adult and you're acting like some jealous boyfriend." The second the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Mark stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly across the floor. "That's disgusting," he said. "You're the one thinking like that, not me." He stormed upstairs and slammed the bedroom door. For a moment, I wondered if maybe he was right. Maybe I was projecting something awful onto innocent behavior. But then 3 nights later, I saw something that made my blood run cold. And that's when everything fell apart. 3 nights ago, I woke up around 2 a.m. because I heard voices downstairs. At first, I thought Kayla had come home late and was talking on the phone. But then I realized something strange. One of the voices was Mark's. I sat up in bed immediately. Mark wasn't next to me. My stomach dropped. I quietly walked to the top of the stairs. The living room light was on, and Mark and Kayla were down there. Kayla was standing near the couch with her arms crossed. Mark was pacing. They were arguing. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught enough to make my heart start pounding. Kayla said sharply, "You're making me uncomfortable." Mark ran a hand through his hair. "You're overreacting." "I'm not." "You're twisting what I said." I stepped down another stair, trying to hear better. Kayla's voice cracked slightly. "You literally said you wish you met me first." My heart stopped. Mark quickly replied, "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" There was a long silence. Then Mark muttered something I'll never forget. "I just meant, if things were different." Kayla stared at him. "Different how?" Mark looked frustrated. "I'm saying you're attractive. That's not illegal." Kayla's face went pale. "That's really messed up, Mark." Then she grabbed her phone and walked toward the stairs. I panicked and rushed back to the bedroom before she saw me. A few seconds later, I heard her bedroom door slam. Mark came upstairs a minute after that. I pretended to be asleep, but I could barely breathe. The next morning, Kayla avoided both of us. She grabbed coffee and left the house without saying a word. Mark acted like nothing happened, and I felt like my entire world had just cracked open. Because now I knew two things. First, I wasn't imagining it. Second, my daughter felt uncomfortable in her own home. I spent the entire day spiraling. Every possible scenario ran through my mind. What if this escalated? What if something worse happened? What if Kayla thought I wouldn't protect her? And that's when I made the decision that everyone now hates me for. That night, I went to Kayla's room. She was sitting on her bed, scrolling on her phone. I sat down beside her. "Hey." She barely looked at me. "What's up?" My chest felt tight. "I think it might be better if you stayed somewhere else for a while." She stared at me like I just slapped her. "What?" "I just think some space might be good." Her eyes immediately filled with tears. "Are you serious right now?" I tried to explain, but the words wouldn't come out right. "I just think things are tense here." Her voice rose. "So your solution is to kick me out?" "That's not what I'm doing." "Yes, it is." She stood up, shaking. "You're choosing him over me." My throat closed up. "That's not true." Kayla wiped her face angrily. "You're unbelievable." Then she grabbed a bag and started packing. And that was the moment my entire family turned against me. But what none of them know is, what happened the next day made the situation even worse. Kayla moved out the next morning. She didn't even look at me when she left. She just loaded her bags into her friend's car and slammed the door. Mark stood on the porch watching silently. Once the car drove away, he turned to me. "What the hell was that about?" I felt numb. "You know exactly what that was about." Mark scoffed. "You're still on that delusion?" My hands started shaking. "I heard you talking to her." His face changed slightly. For half a second, he looked nervous. Then he laughed. "Oh my god. You're serious? You told her you wished you met her first." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" Mark rubbed his temples. "You're twisting everything." But the damage was already done. By that afternoon, Kayla had told the entire family that I kicked her out for no reason. My phone started exploding. My sister texted, "What is wrong with you?" My mom called screaming, "You chose a man over your child." Then the family group chat erupted. Cousins, aunts, everyone. Messages kept pouring in. "Disgusting. How could you do that? She has nowhere to go." I tried to explain, but every time I started typing, I stopped. Because how do you tell people something like this? "Hey everyone, I think my husband is attracted to my daughter." It sounded insane. And Mark knew that. That night he said something that made my blood run cold. "You realize if you start telling people this, they're going to think you're the sick one, right?" I stared at him. "Why would they think that?" He leaned closer. "Because you're the one imagining sexual tension between a man and his stepdaughter." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Then he added quietly, "You'll destroy your relationship with her permanently." For the first time, I wondered if he might actually succeed in turning everyone against me. But then something happened that flipped the entire situation upside down. Because 2 days later, Kayla called me, and what she said made my stomach drop. When Kayla called me, I almost didn't answer. I assumed she was calling to scream at me again. But the second I picked up, I knew something was wrong. Her voice sounded shaky. "Mom, we need to talk." My heart started racing. "Okay." There was a long pause. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. "Did Mark say anything to you after I left?" I hesitated. "Why?" Another pause. Then she said quietly, "Because he's been texting me." My chest tightened instantly. "What?" Kayla let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, apparently kicking me out didn't stop him." My hands started shaking. "What did he say?" She was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I recorded our conversation that night." My entire body went cold. "You what?" "I recorded it," she repeated. Because something about the way he was acting felt off. My mind was spinning. "Kayla, what exactly did he say?" There was another long pause. Then she said something that made my heart stop. "Mom, he admitted it." The room felt like it started spinning. "What do you mean he admitted it?" Her voice cracked. "He said he's attracted to me." I had to sit down. But that's not even the worst part. My stomach dropped. What could be worse than that? Kayla took a shaky breath. "He said the only reason he hasn't acted on it is because of you." I felt physically sick. Then she added one last thing. "And now he's texting me saying you overreacted, and that we should talk privately." To clear things up. I couldn't breathe. My daughter finally said quietly, "So now I need to know something." My heart was pounding in my ears. "What?" Her voice broke. "Did you kick me out because you believed him, or because you were trying to protect me?" I didn't know how to answer, because now my daughter won't speak to me. My entire family says I ruined her life, and my husband is acting like I'm insane. But after hearing that recording, I'm starting to think kicking her out might have actually protected her. So now I need to know, am I the ass?